downstairs. He slips some eggs and bacon onto my plate as he gives me a peck on my head and says, "I'm sorry I've been such a grouch lately. I love you guys." I want to plug him right into my headphone jack, right there, and let him hear what happens to my heart when he says things like that. And then I want him to hear that I'm scared he'll be a grouch all over again by dinner time. That's the thing about my dad. He can be so angry or so nice, but it's hard to know which one he'll be at any given time. An olive can look a lot like a grape until you bite into it and want to barf from the taste. School starts out great. I have all my work done for a change, so I get to show up to every class without being afraid of a lecture. I remember to head to Dr. Pullman's office for my first lecture detention and even make it on time. It's not as bad as I was expecting. A lot of classwork I need to catch up on, and an eerie silence from Dr. Pullman, sitting behind his computer and typing away the whole time. The only bad part is at the end of lunch, when he says, "See you tomorrow." Apparently I'm not out of the woods yet. When I show up to the symphonic band, our final period of the day, we're scheduled to practice all of our favorite pieces. The band room is an interesting place during that final period. There's 60+ kids with instruments at their sides, crammed into a rehearsal room made for about 40. I'm lucky enough to be in the percussion section. It can get boring when the band is practicing a song they're not scheduled to play, but at least I get to talk with the other drummers. I like Scott and Zeke the best. Scott becomes a different person back here. He actually talks without being spoken to first. It did take a while. He didn't talk to anybody the first few months. Mostly he just slept in one of the chairs, until earlier this year when Zeke woke him up by crashing cymbals in an inch from his ear. They somehow became best friends after that. Zeke is kind of bizarre, but in a hilarious way. That's more than I can say about Danny Linux, who sits pleasantly far away from me in the saxophone section. Danny and I participated in the same instrument fitting last year when the band teacher before Mrs. Renly visited our elementary school. Kids interested in band took turns heading to the music room to try out several instruments. Danny was pretty excited about percussion beforehand, but ended up liking the saxophone instead. When my turn came to head to the music room, the teacher made me try a bunch of instruments just to be sure I wasn't missing out on any hidden talents. Maybe she wanted me to fall in love with a surprising instrument like Danny, but I knew the other instruments were wrong for me the moment I held them. I told her I loved John Bonham and wanted to be in the percussion section, so she gave me a simple rhythm test. It wasn't too complicated. She made sure I could count to 4 and play basic quarter and eighth notes. Every kid in the percussion section had to pass it. "I'm bored," Scott says. "You're always bored," I say back, because he always is. That's because I don't get to play anything. Zeke and I are both thinking, you never want to play anything. "You should pee in the tambourine," Zeke says. "That's nasty," Scott says, making a sour face. "You're nasty. That's why you should do it." You guys are weird," I say. They both look at me for a few seconds and resume their conversation. It's weird the way they look at me, like I'm another boy. That's something you learn quickly when you're a girl in the percussion section. You don't get to be a girl when you're playing drums. "I would totally pee in the tambourine," Zeke says. "How exactly would you pee in a tambourine?" I ask. Zeke looks at me dumbfounded. So I add, "The only way to pee inside the tambourine is to take off the drum head, and I'm betting you don't have a drum key to get that done." "I'll steal Miss Renly's drum key," Zeke says. "Even if you know where it is, which you don't, you'll have to stand up and steal it, and good luck doing that without Miss Renly seeing you." Zeke shrugs and then says, "I would still pee in it." "I would still pee on your head," Scott says. Like I said, it's weird how much he opens up when we're in the drum section. It's like he's safe to be himself here. Both of you be quiet, I say. Why don't you pee on something, Sam? Zeke asks. Smell your bag, I say. For a second, he's almost going to do it. Then Scott and I laugh, and he waves us away like he knew the whole time. He's pretty gullible for a self-described prankster. But you want to know something crazy? I really like these guys. Not in a weird way or anything. I just like being around them. It makes the time spent waiting to play more bearable. The band stops playing as the current piece ends. Miss Renly announces the next song, and the class starts shuffling papers, searching for the right sheet music. You're up, Sam, Zeke says. You're on the mamba. Finally, it's never a good idea to have too much downtime, or Miss Renly might think you're one of her time wasters. A kid who joins band to get out of class. The percussion section is full of them. That's when I panic. Dr. Pullman gave my marimba mallets to Miss Renly. Unless I try hitting them marimba with my head, I can't play my part without them. I raise a nervous shaking hand. Yes, Sam, Miss Renly says. I don't know what to say. If I remind her that she has my mallets, the entire room of 60 plus students will know they are confused, they were confiscated by the principal. It will only be a matter of time before kids from every section start murmuring about why. You have my marimba mallets, I say, hating myself as I do it. I catch Danny smirking over in the sax section. Please, please, please don't make me say why in front of the entire class. Miss Renly sighs and says, they're in the bin in my office. Go grab them while the rest of us get started. I breathe a sigh of relief. Grab a pair of my marimba mallets out of her office. Seems straightforward enough. It's right behind the conductor's podium at the front of the rehearsal room. Her office is the size of a porta potty, so finding anything in there should be easy. What I didn't think about, because I never think about things like this, is how I'm going to get out of the percussion section. It seems so simple, but we rehearse in a room that is so not designed for 60 kids. Some of them with tubas the size of Great Danes. Everyone is starting the song without me. So I can't exactly tap them on the shoulder and ask them to move. So I do what any kid might do. I tiptoe as carefully as I can between people and the instruments in an attempt to get through the crowd and over to Miss Renly's office. I don't know how it happens. Some part of my arm, probably my elbow, bumps into a flute. A shrill tweet pierces the air, followed by the sound of another kid shouting, "Ouch!" as she clenches her bloody lip. My drumsticks fall out of my back pocket. I didn't even know I had them. I would have left them in the drum section if I remembered. My right foot slips on one of them, sending my whole body forward. I collapse into the saxophone section, right into Denny Lennox himself, and together we domino into the trombones, whose long tubes stab the woodwinds in the back of their heads. Within seconds, the entire band is in chaos, and I've personally assaulted kids Within seconds, the entire band is in chaos, and I've personally assaulted kids with almost every instrument classification. What is wrong with you, Danny says from the bottom of a crumpled pile of saxophone players splayed on the floor. I stand up and survey the staring faces and damage I've caused. I nervously smile back as if somehow that will affirm my innocence and keep me out of trouble. Miss Renly sees me standing in the middle of musical wreckage, freaked out, surrounded by shoved and squished kids, with musical instruments wedged in their faces. In my office, Samantha, Miss Renly says, now, we're talking after class. I didn't even bother telling her to call me Sam. I slump my shoulders and pick up my sticks to bring with me. Leave the sticks here. Man, I really wanted them with me. It's so boring sitting in there with nothing to do. I walk all the way behind the podium and into Miss Willie's office, a closet-sized space with stacks of sheet music and half-destroyed instruments. I get sit here a lot, especially when I'm in the middle of playing. I don't know how, but I think I get in trouble more often when I have more band responsibility. I shut the door behind me and listen as the sound of reshuffle. I shut the door behind me and listen as the sound of rehearsal. What? I shut the door behind me and listen as the sound of rehearsal muffles. There used to be a few cellos and upright bass squeezed into this little space that I used to mess around with. But Miss Rinley caught me plucking the strings and put them in another room. Now there's nothing but me and four walls and the dampened sound of the band in the classroom outside. It sucks pretty bad. Zeke is the only one who gets put in here more often than me, and he just falls asleep. I don't know how anyone can fall asleep when there's music playing. It's weird too, because it's not like I get put in here because I want to goof off. I take band seriously. I really do. It's just that, I'm not sure, it's just the seriousness of people talk about in all the other classes. I mean, we really supposed to sit still in these plastic chairs and be silent when it's not our turn to play? And when it is our turn, do we always have to play the notes on the page? What if I come up with a better part? What if it's a better beat or a better rhythm? And what if we really is a better part? And it's not just me being a brat and wanting to do something my own way all the time. Isn't it possible that a dreamer like me might actually know what she's talking about every once in a while? 20 minutes later, the walls of Miss Rinley's office are darker and the band is gone. I stay still. I learned the hard way that when certain teachers tell you to stay put, you do exactly what they asked until you're released. I'm sitting in the chair Miss Rinley keeps in her office, waiting for her to come get me and tell me that the Planet of the Apes, her nickname of the percussion section, has been released and I'm free to head to my locker and leave for the day. But no one comes to get me. And that's when I hear the sound of something that scares the crap out of me like I never thought possible. Someone crying. It's Miss Rinley. Now I'm really scared to leave. I have no idea what Miss Rinley will do if she finds out I'm still here. Walking in on a teacher crying is like walking into the wrong bathroom. You just don't do it, not even as a joke. I hear the doors of the rehearsal room open. Someone else is in the room with Miss Rinley. "I'm sorry, Grace," a deep male voice says. It sounds like another teacher. "I heard about the board's decision. They're letting all the first-year teachers go," Miss Rinley said. "That includes me." "It's just budget cuts," the men said. "It's nothing personal. Everyone here wants you to stay. They're probably going to call you back over the summer when they get updated enrollment numbers." "No, Phil, they won't." "Of course they will. They always do." I can hear Ms. Rinley let out a sigh. "You don't get it. They're cutting the whole program." "Cutting the whole program? What program? What is Ms. Rinley talking about?" "They can't do that," the man says. "They already have," Ms. Rinley says. "I was just informed during lunch. Come next year, there will be no music program at Kennedy, not in any of the middle schools." Within seconds, I feel like I'm going to burst. A tear leaves my eye, and it takes everything in me to keep from sobbing. My heart falls into my chest. I start to sweat. My skin crawls with goosebumps, and my chest feels like it's going to explode. They're cutting the music program. When I return to Kennedy Middle School as a 7th grader next year, there will be no music classes. There will be no symphonic band. There will be no orchestra or jazz band. And there will definitely be no full drum set.